Hello, good morning, good afternoon. I want to take you to Monday, January the 4th, 2021. I was about to start work again, 9 a.m. in the morning. I was quite optimistic about the day ahead. I'd been quite lucky. I'd had a really good 2020, both business and personal-wise. I'd had a good break, the Christmas holidays. I was quite relaxed. I was ready to get started again. So off I went, midday, by Monday, the 4th of January, things still going well. Fast forward 2 weeks later to the middle of the January, another Monday. It was starting to feel a little bit different. By midday, by the end of that Monday, I hadn't really got anything done. The motivation wasn't great. In fact, to be honest, I hadn't got much done on the Friday or Thursday beforehand either. It was starting to feel a little bit like this. It was starting to feel like I didn't know what I wanted to do, how I would find the motivation to keep going. Fast forward 2 more weeks to the end of January. This was a difficult time. My to-do list was growing, but I was so demotivated that I wasn't getting any of it done. So there was this vicious circle of increased to-do list, no motivation to finish it, increased to-do list, stress. I wasn't a person that I liked very much, if I'm going to be honest. Waking up every day, traipsing into the home office, trying to get stuff done. It made me grumpy, irritable, even angry sometimes. I didn't like the kind of person that I was becoming, and yet I couldn't seem to break this cycle. So in February, I started opening up to some people about this, how I was feeling, and it was amazing how much people opened up to me that something similar was happening to them. 2021 has been a difficult time for lots of people. Anyway, hi. My name's Max Hunter. I'm here today to talk to you about the Chief Joy Officer and the pit of despair, which you've just heard about. I'm co-founder of a company called Motivators at Work with my co-founder Judith Raymakers, and we focus on helping businesses to become motivated places to work. My job title, as you may have heard, is indeed Chief Joy Officer. Yes, I may even hear some of you smiling or even laughing. What does that mean? Well, before I tell you what a Chief Joy Officer is, let me tell you what a Chief Joy Officer is not. I don't go around giving out massages in the office, I'm sorry to say, and definitely no happy endings, although this story does have a happy ending. It's not about beanbags in the office, or fruit bowls, or table football tables, or gym memberships, or even beer in the fridge on a Friday. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But typically what we see is these are like plasters over the wound. It's a bit shit to work here, so we'll give you some things to make it feel a bit better. So, if that's what a Chief Joy Officer is not, what is a Chief Joy Officer? Well, to paint a picture, I was actually the Chief Joy Officer on the leadership team of an organization. So it was a real job title. It was a real C-suite role. And the vision that I had as Chief Joy Officer was to create a place to work where people wake up on a Monday morning and can't wait to get back to work. Maybe I'm sensing some of you smiling that that's a crazy idea. But bear it in mind. If you do have a workforce that cannot wait to get back to work on a Monday morning, imagine what they can create. Imagine what they can achieve. Imagine how your business would do. Of course, Monday morning, that Monday morning feeling is not just about having parties or having fun. It's about everything at work. Some of the dirtier stuff as well. How are managers managing? How are leaders leading? How do teams connect and collaborate? How do we do performance management reviews, etc., etc.? Many factors play into that. As Chief Joy Officer at a company called LoyLogic, based in Switzerland, but actually a global company, I took time listening to people. What is it like to work here? What does get in the way of that Monday morning feeling? What's important to them? With that in mind, I then started to create initiatives and things that would actually improve from where we are today to an even better place. If you want to hear more about that, there's a talk that I've done called The Chief Joy Officer and the Eastern Princess. And so you can obviously watch that if you wish on YouTube and or indeed from our website at Motivators at Work. But for today, I want to focus on the story that I told you at the start. After I was in that pit of despair, as I started to come out of it, I started to reflect on why. Why was I feeling like that? Because in truth, I didn't have any more work than usual. The work wasn't that different to usual either. Yes, I was getting less done, my to-do list was growing due to this vicious circle of motivation, demotivation, to-do list, stress. But if it wasn't just the workload, what was it? First thing I noticed was I was missing the human interaction. Sure, I had some Zoom calls, MS Teams meetings, but that real human interaction, either in person, of course, difficult during lockdown, but also virtual human interaction, not just business meetings. I was missing that. I was craving that. I needed that. Second thing, every day felt the same. If you've seen the movie Groundhog Day, that's how it felt. Waking up, breakfast, home office, tea, Netflix, bed, rinse and repeat, every day. This in itself is somewhat soul-destroying, and I think that you can imagine how that feels. Maybe you've been through it yourself. I also, as part of that, had no choices, no options. I had to stay at home. Even if I'd had the choice to go out and meet friends or go to a restaurant, not to, at least having the choice would have made a difference. So I really didn't have that diversity at all of life. The third thing that was important is that I wasn't getting any feedback on my work. I wasn't getting any input. How am I doing? It felt like I was working in a black hole, sending stuff out into a black hole, and there was no feedback, no input, no thanks, no recognition, no seeing the impact of my work, which, by the way, is crucial for humans to stay motivated. So none of those things were there. I realized that this was having an impact on my resilience. Resilience, of course, being your ability to handle stressful situations, your ability to handle, for example, more workload, your ability to handle difficult moments in life. I realized that my resilience was dropping, which is strange, especially for me. I think I've never had a problem with before, almost never. People talk to me that I seem as though things are always good, I'm always okay. Obviously not always true, but I don't get super stressed. But this was happening to me. So I thought about that, and I have a theory on the connection between workload or work and resilience in this case. And I want to talk to you about that just briefly now. So as you'll see on this chart, the blue line here represents the resilience threshold. How much you can take before you start to get stressed. It's different for different people and different at different times. But that's your threshold. And if stress or workload, here marked by the red line, starts to get closer to it, then danger is in sight. As long as it stays below, we can cope with it and we can deal with it. The moment the red line starts to overtake the blue line, that's the moment when we start to get stressed. And the longer that that red line stays above that blue line, we're in danger of going towards burnout. So what? Well, there's obviously two things you can do to make sure that the red line stays below the blue line. One, you can reduce the workload, of course. You can make sure that the red line doesn't come up to the blue line. So you can decrease the red line. The other thing, of course, is you can increase the blue line. So you can make sure that your resilience levels are higher. For me, in this case, it would be around spending time with people, having diversity, getting feedback, being recognized, those things. Of course, the blue line started to decrease as a consequence of that, of not having those things. And so we were in the red zone as the red line overtook. So what can you do as a leader to support your people in this area of resilience, especially during these times? Of course, you can reduce their workload. That's, of course, possible. Realistically, work always expands to fill the time available. So it's not always easy to reduce workload. But what you certainly should be conscious of is not overloading people. Think that you're layering more and more and more on top of them. And if you need to or want to, ask them. And let them know that the answer no is perfectly fine. Let's imagine that workload is harder to shift. What do we do about the blue line? How can we increase that resilience? What can you do as leaders? If you focus on those three things, here's some ideas. 1, increase the amount of human interaction. Yeah, but we're all in our home offices, you say. It's all just MS Teams or Zooms meetings. True. But trust me, there are ways that you can increase human interaction. In this day of virtual meetings, we decrease typically the amount of time to say hi, how are you doing? How was your weekend? It typically goes straight to agenda point 1 and off you go. There are ways that you can make that space for human interaction. From small things like opening meetings with that how are you doing round and just have 5 minutes as human beings to have a chat. We've also run in the last year over 100 virtual meetings, events, workshops. And I can promise you there are ways to get people to interact as human beings, to create virtual experiences that do allow for the human element. It'll never be as good as in person, sure, but we think we can get that to 80, 90% as good with virtual experiences. And we're getting more and more and more requests because it works. So please do not assume that you can't make virtual human. Make space for that. Number 2, encourage your people to get some diversity in their life. This is difficult because they have to take a lot of personal responsibility for it. But there's things that you can do. You can role model it. You can tell people what you've been doing to get out of the daily Groundhog Day same routine. You can even have a little competition where people share their ideas of how they've got out of that, and the team can learn from each other. You can even surprise them with little gifts or little games that maybe take them out of that as well. Thirdly, very importantly, recognition. Again, in the virtual world with meetings, we forget to take time to pat people on the back and say thank you, to appreciate what they've achieved, to recognize the work they've put in, to acknowledge how difficult these times have been as well. Make space to celebrate achievements as a team and as a leader, so that you're acknowledging and recognizing each individual as a part of that. So make space for being human, make space for different experiences, and make space to acknowledge and recognize your people. We at Motivators at Work have created a framework that helps you to understand and unpick what drives motivation at work. What are the keys to deliver your people's potential? And here's what they are. The first one is called I belong. This is this sense that I belong to a tribe. We as humans are a tribal species, and we need that sense that we belong to the group, that we like the group, we're in this together, and that we're on a common purpose. The next one is called I am seen. As part of that tribe, I am recognized, acknowledged for my contribution to the group. This is acknowledgement, recognition. The third thing is called it's my thing. This is where I do what I love. You know that stuff you do when you're in the zone because you just love it so much? That fits in here. As a consequence, you're the expert. So you get to make decisions and you don't get overruled by your bosses. That's it's my thing. And finally, I am growing. Quite self-explanatory, but in here is the need to have new challenges to grow and develop, but also be given the support to be able to achieve them. So these 4 things are important to drive motivation. The 2 at the bottom we call the roots, that which binds us to where we work and what we do. The top 2 we call the fruits, harvesting the fruits of our labor. So this framework we call the roots and fruits methodology to understand motivation at work. Why do I mention this? Well, because you'll hopefully see from the things that I mentioned before, they fit into this. Okay, that human interaction falls very much into I belong. Our tribe, my people together, having those interactions is crucial. That diversity, doing lots of different things that I love, be it playing football, going to restaurants, doing my work in a different way, that falls into it's my thing. And last but by no means least, the recognition, the acknowledgement, the feedback fits very much into I am seen. And there is that sense of not being seen anymore when I sit in my home office just in virtual meetings. So hopefully that helps you understand why these things are important for everyone, not just for me. So let's fast forward to this Monday just gone. How is Max Hunter right now? Well, hopefully you can see that I don't feel like this, like the pictures. No, I found a way out of it. How? I managed to increase my level of human interaction. I made space in virtual calls with my co-founder, with my clients, even with friends, to have more human interaction that's not just pure business meetings. I went for some walks and beers with friends in the evenings. I just got more of that I needed. Diversity. I started to go jogging. I actually used my friend's lounge as a co-working space. He was in the kitchen, just being somewhere else, doing something new. I even managed to get out and about and visit some clients nearby in Germany with distancing, with masks, still just to not sleep in the same bed for once after 6 months. And finally, the recognition. I've done some more projects where I've received feedback, lots of positive stuff, which of course is nice, warm feeling, but also some feedback on how I can improve. But it feels like my work's having an impact, or at least I can sense it and hear it now. And that makes the world of difference. So, happy Max. It's the summer coming. It's 23 degrees here today. All good. There will be some rocky rides to go, but I understand what I need to overcome them now. So, if I leave you with 3 takeaways from this talk. 1, make space for human interaction and virtual human interaction. Make space and do it properly. Encourage diversity of life for your people. Encourage them, role model for them, get them to share with each other how to get out of Groundhog Day. And last but by no means least, make space to recognize your people, to acknowledge them, to give them space to realize that the work they're doing has an impact and that they're appreciated. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to your questions, and really importantly, I look forward to hearing how this has helped you make a change in your business. Please do reach out to me or Judith, Motivators at Work, LinkedIn, however you wish. I hope that helped. Thank you very much, and goodbye.